Done. So I thought I'd do a series of videos just on how I work. And so this is the first of the series. And it's not so much how I paint, it's just the process of how I work and why I like working that way. You'll see that I like to just paint on prime canvas, pinned to the wall. And the reason I like to do that is I'm not married to it, so if I don't like it, I can easily just cut it up and throw it out, put it in my burn pile, it's easy for me to just work on these things and not have a sense of commitment or it needs to be completed. Like if you buy something on stretchers, there's always that feeling for me that it needs to be perfect and it needs to be a painting in the end. However, with this, it doesn't need to be a finished painting. It can just be a study that moves on to another study, which moves on to a finished painting. However, sometimes within that, you always get a finished painting. And if that's the case, well, you just take your canvas, you can mount it to the board, which I have a video of. Click the little pop-up there and you'll be able to see it. And then you can frame it and you got your finished piece. And I find it a lot more freeing to work this way. So I'm just going to show you how I just go about deciding what size canvas I need. So we'll put this one aside. More or less I buy canvas on the roll, and this is pre-prime canvas. So it has 2 coats of gesso on it already, so I don't have to worry about gessoing it after I take it off the roll. And I work from a photo and I decide a composition. This is the one you just saw up there, and it's more of a long format. So how would I decide on that size? I mean, we could go 8 inches wide, 10 inches wide, 15 inches wide, 25 inches wide. And that's pretty much where I start. I think, how big do I want this piece to be? And the proportions of the crop tell me the length, kind of. So let's say we want this to be about 16 inches. So I'll just roll out 16-ish inches, maybe 17 because we want a little bit of room to work with. And I'll just mark it with my knife here or my finger. Take your knife, just do kind of one little slit. And the beauty of the canvas is now you can just rip it. So, all ripped up. And now we have our decided size. From there, I'll pin it to the wall. All right. And we need some place to start. Now, you could use a level for this, but generally your eye is really good at seeing what level is. So I'll just put this square up here. And you can't judge it on the canvas itself because depending on the fibers of the canvas, it can be perfectly straight. Sometimes it's a little askew. So I'll just put a horizontal line up here like this, right? And I'll kind of just decide that here will be the edge. And you line this up to make sure this is a standard framing square, right? And you can see it comes to the edge here. You can see the canvas isn't perfectly straight. So maybe that tells me that I need to move it over a little bit. Just to give us some room if we're going to do longer painting, right? Now I'll put our framing square up, lots of room. So now we know that this painting is going to be square at least. So if I do decide to mount it on the board, I know everything will line up with the board that I'm going to be putting it on. And later on the frame, of course. And we'll continue down with the line here for as long as we need it. And then we can measure over how distance. Let's say we wanted a 15-inch. Now let's do 16-inch. All right, we'll line it up. Do our line, bring it down. Make sure that's still straight. And if you wanted, you could use a level for this, but I just want a little bit too much. I just want to get painting, so I'm trying to get the size that I want. And how long do we want this? It's 16, so 16 by 32 is always a good ratio. So let's go 32 inches. All right, so there's 24. There's 30 and there's 32. Okay, so once we got that marked, we can take our framing square again, put it on our mark and on our line that we just drew. So now that we know everything's square, and mark it, and there we go. So now here we have a 16 by 32 canvas ready to paint. And then from there, And I'll get my charcoal out and I'll take my scene and I can start sketching on it. One thing if you want to do as well is for this particular one that I have over here, I put a little grid system on so then I can translate the drawing, which makes it a little bit easier. So if you want, you divide that by 4. So we know that 16 divided by 4 is 4. So then we take every 4 inches, we'll add a mark. 8, 12, and then to grid it is really easy because you just line up the marks you made and the framing square, and you just start drawing your lines to create your grid so you can translate the drawing on. Then you can just start painting. And I love this process because you can see how quick it is to lay out a canvas. I don't have to go to the store, or if I find that I want a proportion 16 by 32, where can you buy a 16 by 32 stretch canvas size? It allows me to create whatever I want, whenever I want, any size, any proportion, and I can just get into it, start painting. It's just so quick and easy. It's a great workflow. It's a great workflow for me. And I hope it works out for you. Give it a try. All you need is some pre-primed canvas from your local art store generally. You can buy it by the foot. Sometimes you got to buy it by the roll, but it's a lot less expensive than buying stretch canvas. And in the end, of course, and if it works out, you can always stretch it onto some stretchers, or you can mount it on the board. I have a video. Click on this pop-up again, and you'll be able to see me mounting the canvas to a board. And then from there, you can varnish it and frame it. So this is part 1 of the series of how I work. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as much as I can. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. And most importantly, I highly encourage you to like this video. It really helps me out. Thanks, everyone.